or third game against Choke. So that's fair enough. Very strong champion at the moment, very highly contended.
The Graves makes a lot of sense to me as well. We saw Max Lord dominate on that in Game 2 against Exertus. The play he made up in the top lane basically locked that game down. So
it was painful to watch if you're an Exertus fan. He just survived on about 200 HP and then Warlord's Bloodlust healed him up for the rest
ridiculous.
of it.
Well, actually, it was the Maw of Malmortius that actually kept him alive.
And the Death Dance.
And the Death Dance. Yeah. So
didn't he have a Phantom Dancer as well for the reduced damage?
With the reduced damage. He was just basically like, not only can you not kill me, I'm going to get all my health back off of you too.
Yeah, I mean, the Rammus ban makes sense for Renegades. Manalite, that's one of the main reasons Manalite beat them. Was a pick off from Rammus in the last week of the
called out
championship.
Yuki with a teleport flank.
Yeah,
Rifty's so good at those teleport flanks.
And that's just a strategy they don't want to face, so it just makes sense.
A lot of respect going towards Rifty, to be fair. Rammus and Trundle being taken off the board, which means that Poppy is likely to be the priority for Alphari if it's not banned away from Manalite.
I like this whole strategy of banning away a lot of top laners because, alright, so Poppy is going through, like, Alphari can take this, and I think that he should, but let's say Manalite had banned the Poppy, well, then it's just kind of the ideal situation for Alphari where he can pick something more carry style because Poppy, Rammus, and Trundle are all gone.
And I really want to mention this Twisted Fate because Kadril is someone we mentioned on day one who is really good at Twisted Fate. He has regularly had it banned away from him. He loves to have that global pressure. He is about playing around these side lanes, and Twisted Fate suits him perfectly.
Yeah, and Renegade's first picking Poppy. Manalite must have known this was coming. They must have prepared for it. So I'm interested to see what they pick into this.
Well, we've seen Renegades do it before as well, and Rifty tends to pick the Maokai into it. It's sort of an even-ish lane. Poppy wins it ever so slightly, but you can still get Rifty on that Maokai, which he loves, and be able to have him carrying as we get into the late game.
It's dangerous, though, to pick the Maokai into the Poppy because the lane typically goes pretty heavily in the favor of that Poppy. You can shove that Maokai around. And the fact that Braum has been left open, we've seen how much of a valued support he is right now. Given that Alistar was also recently nerfed, he is pretty much the S-tier support to go for. So if he's available, you want to try and pick him up. And you definitely don't want to give away something like a Braum Lucian here for Renegade. So it makes a lot of sense to pick that one up now.
This first rotation for Manalite, we saw the exact same first rotation earlier. I can't remember which team it was, but I think this is a pretty popular one to do on red side.
It was Choke in game 2.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. They did lose that game, but I don't think that makes the rotation a bad one. It doesn't give too much away for a start, and you're picking up two fairly strong heroes.
And the other option for your first rotation as red side here is Braum Lucian, which is a very strong matchup as well. Or Sivir.
Sivir is going to be picked up now.
Thresh is a really interesting locking here for Hiva.
Thresh has seen much less play recently. He's sort of just not been seen as impactful compared to either a frontline support or a very high disengaged support. He can often have fights where he's very easy to pick off at the start.
Because you get lost in the enemy team. You land a hook, you go in, and double TP comes in behind you, and you're like, well...
You tend to only see Thresh players play Thresh, funnily enough. But I really mean like the Thresh mains, the people that have been playing Thresh since his release.
Hiva is a good Thresh.
Yeah, Hiva is a very good
We've
Thresh.
seen this before, so.
But I do wonder whether or not he's going to have the impact that perhaps an Alistar or Gianna or something like that would be able to have with the disengage, which is the main strength of supports at the moment.
We completely forgot about the Porky. Oh, wow! Have I gotten one champion name right?
I totally forgot about the Porky because he goes quite ham most of the time, and so it's going to be a Corki lock-in here for Manalite along with that Ezreal. They've got a strong burst mid laner and the Ezreal for that long-range poke damage, but we saw actually yesterday Gakis had Ezreal, was the only member of his team that was fed and wasn't able to do anything with it because he just kept getting knocked down.
Corki, Ezreal, Braum again, I believe. And that's ever such a common backline, especially the Corki, Ezreal part. Really high mix damage, very long range, very good kite, very good siege. Just very strong all round. Works obviously well with the Nidalee and Braum here.
You're really setting yourself up for a fantastic poke siege composition. You can play very nicely around objectives as well for Manalite. And I wouldn't. Yeah, there's the Lissandra once again for Kadril.
Just take your time, man.
You're really struggling today. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. It's literally been all weekend. I've got like every champion wrong in some sense. I think I should rename them all. He's no longer called Thresh. He is Fresh from now on.
Fresh and Porky.
Yeah, Fresh, Porky.
So, getting back to the
Mousemum
real quick. Renegades, I really like what they've done here with the Lissandra and the Kindred. I think Lissandra makes a lot of sense. Cadril, firstly, is great on it and is going to have a lot of pressure
so well yesterday on Lissandra.
On the map. But also, I think it gives them the potential to engage on this poke. You know, you glacial path in,
Absolutely.
you lock down someone with that ultimate. Kindred is a very good backline threat in certain situations because if you go in and you get low, you can use Lamb's Respite. And I think when they've got the Lissandra with the Thresh, they actually have some nice pick in there as well. So this comp does a lot of stuff well.
Yeah, I think they have quite a few win conditions available to them. You have the split push pressure from Alphari on this Poppy. You have the pick potential, as well as you have a very good mid game with that Lissandra Lucian as well. So I think RNB have a very well-rounded comp that will heavily rely on getting these picks and looking to go for fights in the mid game.
And it's the Maokai lock-in last, which isn't that too much of a surprise, as Rifty loves that tree.
It's got to be a lane swap then.
I think you have to go for the lane swap, as you say, because Poppy does just beat out Maokai in the lane. But
also the bottom lane as well.
Yeah.
It's not a favourable matchup for the Ezreal
It is.
But even
you
if
would
they
give it to Ezreal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, I think it goes significantly in their favour.
Why?
Braum just beats everyone.
No.
I
But
disagree
give me
with that.
actual reasons why Esborn beats Thresh Lucian.
Because Braum passive in lane is just so ridiculously strong. His shield just completely shuts down the damage from the enemy AD carry. Like having hard CC on a support, regular hard CC is so impactful.
But Thresh has regular hard CC, so why doesn't he?
Well, that's only his hook, and in a 2v2, when all summoners are up, that's usually not going to be hitting.
For me, I feel the fact that Ezreal is more of a scaling champion. He just doesn't have the same sort of lane impact that a Lucian does. And even with a Braum, I think that you can play around it, because what you can use the Thresh for is to land the crowd control onto the Braum, take him away from the Ezreal, split them up, and then go for the 1v1 with the AD carries, and then in that situation, Lucian will always come out ahead.
Also, don't you think after the first back, because Ezreal is going to be going for a tier, they have very reduced damage as opposed to the Lucian Thresh lane, who are taking Ignite as well?
It depends how the lane's going. You even see some AD carries getting a pickaxe on the first back for the base, and then getting into a mana mule early, instead of going just the tier on first base. Not so much anymore. It was what we saw a lot when Blue Ezreal was getting popular again. But it's definitely a factor that he takes time to scale. It depends how much gold they both have on their first back.
I think it's worth noting, though, that if the lane swap that we've been talking about comes through, Lucian and Thresh are going to be able to push much quicker than that Ezreal lane. He doesn't have the same AoE, like piercing light kind of thing.
You also have
the
the double shot as well, which will help you ever so slightly take away those turrets. And he also has, well, I say mobility. I suppose they're both pretty mobile heroes at the end of the day. But then you also have to remember Nidalee. The Nidalee buff does make your AD carry that much quicker.
A lot more attack speed. I think a big thing for Ezreal as well, looking at Brixton's side of the argument, he can dodge Thresh hooks pretty easily if he's using his Arcane Shift correctly. Even when you're hooked, you can Arcane Shift.
I wouldn't aim my hooks for the Ezreal if I was playing the Thresh in that matchup.
But you're not a support, so...
No, I'm not a support.
Nor are you playing it.
Nor am I playing.
No, I totally understand that. If you aim for the Braum, you can eliminate him from the fight. It's going to be a really interesting matchup, especially if they do go for that 2v2, because one of you is going to have to eat a shear at the end of it. So, which one's it going to be? I'll give you the other one.
I think that they're going to avoid the 2 versus 2 personally.
Do you think the same, Brixton?
I don't know if they'll necessarily avoid it, but yeah, I think Manlight will probably go for a swap. They've definitely practiced swaps a lot.
But that's avoiding the 2v2 then.
I don't think it's necessarily to avoid
that might
it.
not be
Doesn't
the
matter.
reason.
for this
Okay,
swap.
so you think it's that they think they're better at lane swapping than Renegades?
Yeah, Maokai does very well in a lane swap as well.
He does.
If Poppy doesn't get any items, she can be a bit not great.
I think overall for the composition of Manlight as well, it takes time to ramp up. So it makes more sense in general to put it in a lane swap, because you have that time to get that farm onto your AD carry, get to that mid-game spike where they have the 2 items and they can start playing around this poke backline with a strong front line.
I mean, this mana-light composition is very much... It's just the mana-light comp, like 2 item spikes is what they do best, and we'll have to see if it works for them in the first game of the finals here at the ESL UK Spring Split Premiership. I am excited. You guys seem all right as well. There we go. There's some excitement. Quick predictions before we go into the game.
I think that Renegades is going to take this.
Renegades. Mana-lights. Get in, boys. It's going to be Mana-light taking it. Let's pass it over to Munch and Scoundrel.
Thank you very much, guys. So bit one-sided on the predictions in favour of Renegades there.
Exertus and Manolite.
Yes. It is Renegades and Manolite, I do assure you.
That's twice it's happened today. I love our ESL programs. They always give me a laugh.
I will just say before we go into the game that someone has kindly drawn me an Excounder during that last series. I don't know who drew this, so whoever it was, come and let us know because that's amazing. But we're into our finals now, the grand finals of the ESL UK Premiership Spring 2016 season. Now, Manolite versus Renegades, they are 4-4 in the last couple of weeks. I feel like this series has been a long time coming.
I don't think this is sewn up as much as Renegades taking it, straight off the map. I think this is going to be very closely fought. If anything, I think that in a best of 5 series, full best of 5 series, Manolite may have the advantage. They have Frozen Dawn, who is a very vocal coach. You could see him behind the team. He was talking through picks and ban strategies just like an LCS coach would do, making sure that all of them had the prepared picks. Their strategies were put down to a T. Sos Purefix, they joke about it. He was sat there, but he wasn't really having the same kind of level of input. I think the guys do make a bit of fun of that sort of position, but you can just see how dedicated Will is to making sure that his team are thoroughly prepared for this coming match.
But then you can, to play the devil's advocate, you can kind of argue the other side of that in that if you look at games like CSGO, there are a lot of teams that are very successful with coaches, but there are also a lot of teams that, even at the highest level, don't even have a coach playing with them.
I think for this situation, Renegades don't really need a coach particularly because they all have such high level experience from a variety of different sort of scenes. A lot of them have been involved in the challenger scene. They will have that kind of level of experience and they'll know what kind of competitions they want to pick. You could see when they were discussing picks and bans, they were really discussing it between themselves. It was more of a team-wide effort. Where I do think that Frozen Dawn does drive a lot of the strategy with the input from his players, obviously. And like you said, I think it speaks to itself that point that you just made is exactly correct because the Renegades have had the success pretty much without a coach, and Manolite have had the success with a coach. It's just like the polar opposites, like you said. But I do think in an adaptation series, I do think Will have prepared to be able to adapt to picks and bans and have all this kind of thing. I'm not sure I like the Ezreal pick, by the way. I'm not totally sold on it. We haven't seen Ezreal do particularly well in this tournament so far. Hiva is on potentially one of his best champions.
Yeah. Thresh is one of those champions as well that no matter what the meta, no matter what else is going on in the game, you offer so much to your team, and if you have a player that is mechanically able on that champion, you are going to be able to have an impact in the game. But honestly, this series, full best of 5 between Manolite and the Renegades, I feel like the final couldn't have really gone a different way. While we were talking about how Exertus could have upset and Choke really stepped up yesterday,
this was our predicted
This is the final that was destined to be, I feel.
I think so. From the very offset of the ESL Spring Split Premiership, all the way through the group stages, all the way to here, I do think that this was the final everyone was expecting. So it has gone exactly the way we would have predicted it. Now, I like that Larsen's on his Corki. He definitely is going to have a good time. We've seen that Kadril has struggled in lane sometimes, even to special on the side of Exertus, but we know that Kadril loves to affect the map. It's just whether Larsen can keep up in terms of the pressure that Kadril is putting down. Hiva going to knock Hado away with the Flay. They prioritized the Poppy for Alfari once again. That's been a huge pick for them. Maxwell's going to pick up that Kindred and it's going to go into Furion's Nidalee. So I'm interested to see the difference in impact that Furion can have. Maybe, I don't want him to be scared of going into Maxwell's jungle. And, against the original matchup in the first game of that series between Choke and Manolite, Furion just dominated Nutri in that first game on that Nidalee. I don't want him to be scared of Max Law. I want him to go into the enemy jungle. I want him to be just as aggressive, turn those nameplates off, just play the game that we know Furion has been playing.
It's exactly like what we were talking about in the first series of today. It's all about playing your game regardless of your opponent. We'll see if that's going to be a factor in this game. I want to talk about this top lane matchup because we've got... Oh, actually, there's a hook in the bottom lane. Smiley has been found by Hiva, and Hiva looking to get the level 1 kill. First blood already going the way of the Bandito.
It's just time after time. Renegades hit level 2, and they always manage to get a kill in that bot lane. They were stuck under turret and they still managed to get the kill. There's quite a lot of summoners burnt there. There's only the heal remaining for Yuki, but with an Ezreal and Braum, you're never going to out-push the Thresh and the Lucian. Hiva looking for the hook, doesn't manage to land the Flay. But, Smiley got locked up there. He was still level 1, still is level 1.
Yeah.
It was just a classic level 2 power spike. And Maxwell now coming into the middle.
Yeah, Larson in trouble. Is going to flash away. Has that Mountain Dread stacking, but Valkyrie will pull him to safety. That was his last little bit of mana as well. So just about getting away with that one. But certainly, just look at the scoreline right now in the bottom lane. Now, Yuki didn't actually get the killing blow, which is great news for Smiley. However, there is already a 10 CS lead on top of that assist coming out for Yuki. So Smiley is going to have his work cut out to pull himself back into this laning phase.
Alfari's going to stay there. There is a ward spotting out Furion on this Nidalee. Rifty is going to try and his best just to let this top lane push towards him. Furion now going to back off, head towards his own jungle, which means Alfari will just appear in lane again. And then Furion comes back, steps on the ward once more. I think he realizes he's been seen now.
Yeah, it's kind of Alfari can just stand close enough to be getting XP, but not quite overextend for those CS, and is going to be able to just kind of waste a little bit of Furion's time. Furion going back into his jungle now just to continue farming up a storm. And so far, neither jungler really having too much success, both attempting to make things happen in lanes. But, I mean, Maxwell did burn the flash in the mid lane, but again, it's very early on. And with the thing is, it's on Corki, so you're going to have a Valkyrie every 20 seconds anyway. So the lack of flash, while it is an advantage, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, especially in that mid lane as well.
Yeah,
it's such a short lane. That's why Corki can remain so safe. The Valkyrie covers so much distance, getting you towards your own tower. If you're going to have a mid laner that can seek a kill on the Corki in the mid lane, Lissandra will be one of the better ones to do so. But I imagine as soon as that that glacial path comes down, you will just see Corki Valkyrie away just through fear, especially post level 6, getting locked up in that tomb, and then also having a Maxlaw jump on top as well. The Mark has spawned for Maxlaw. Looks like Rifty's heading down. No, he's not going to commit to this, but mid lane though.
Three-man gank is going to go on in this mid lane. Larson, he doesn't have flash and his Valkyrie's on cooldown. That is going to be the kill going over to Maxlaw. An assist gone to both Kadril and Hiva, and this is how you make things happen. Bandito's well and truly in control of the game.
Got to look up at Nidalee and Kindred though, because Kindred is looking to take her mark. Nidalee jumping in. I think she gets that.
Yeah, Furion stole that one away. So going to deny the mark, which is good news for Manalight. They do not want to let Maxlaw snowball.
No, a nice roam by Hiva though, just to exploit that Corki. You can, if you've got 3 people roaming towards you, Corki forced to use the Valkyrie very, very early. You can then also just, attempt to make the hook post Valkyrie just through your positioning. If you get behind him, he's going to be forced to Valkyrie towards you. And then that's when you start to use some of your CC. So it was a nice early flash burn, and they've capitalized on it too. Rifty going to head back towards that top lane. Double Dorans, we do see him employ this Maokai build quite frequently, just to give a little bit more mana sustain in lane, but also trade a little bit better with that Arcane Smash too.
Yeah, absolutely. So far in the top lane, very, very even matchup. Typically in this top lane today, we've been seeing, well, we've only had 2 games today, but both of them have been pretty much counter picks. Hiva gets another Death Sentence in this bottom lane. Going to get onto Haddo, but Haddo not really the target he wants to be focusing. But so far, this is definitely the most even top lane matchup we've seen. Furion trying to get on in here onto Alfari, who's very, very far up the lane. I don't know if he's got anywhere to go, but Teleport going to be channeled immediately by Kadril. Knocks up Rifty, but they can't really commit to that one.
It's the double teleport again, always there to bail out Renegades in these kind of situations. Been used a lot by them to turn ganks back away from their opposition. So been very impressed with the way they've used this double teleport. Now they're going to try and go on to Rifty, who's burnt his flash. This is going to take only one. Okay, here we go.
Oh no, Kadril flashes, but his ult is not quite in range.
God, what a random. What a random right there. Literally, no idea what he's doing on that champion. No, but I'm joking. That was obviously very, very close to hitting the ultimate there. I think he'd used these Glacial Path. I was expecting him to use Glacial Path there to try and catch up to the Maokai and then flash go for the ultimate, but he must have used it just to get past that tower range.
Oh, really nice hook coming out from Hiva onto Haddo in this bottom lane, but Hiva's actually out of mana, so they can't really do all too much with that one, and I think they're going to actually have to head to base soon enough, because the bottom lane of Yuki and Hiva aren't a bottom lane that will stay without mana, because they want to be consistently putting on that aggression, and you can't do that with just auto attacks alone.
Yeah, nice mark spawning for Kindred as well in this river. That should be able to be Maxwell picking up one of his first marks of the game. There's good vision control as well around that top side red jungle for Renegades. I think they're going to meet here though.
Yeah, Furion is not looking to give away these marks easily. Maxlaw looking for his second one right now.
Rifty's coming down.
Furion looking to contest, and actually Kadril isn't going to be here to help out Rifty. As you said, coming to try and get this Herald, and Looks like Furion will be able to grab that one for himself, so Maxlaw being denied.
I think it's the best way to deny Kindred's early game as well. The more neutral objectives and neutral marks you can deny, the better it is in terms of the scaling damage that Kindred could put out. Also, that Rift Scuttler, once that Devourer is finished, if those Rift Scuttlers are contested, that's still 2 stacks you're denying from Maxlaw as well. Captain Alfari, he's just trading very well with Rifty right now, but like you said, you know, a half-health Maokai is not going to be too upset because the sustain that Maokai gets in lane now is just absolutely, it's ridiculous with Grasp of the Undying. Furion is waiting around here. I think Rifty's trying to bait this one in, but Maxlaw, he's reading the sort of the body language of Rifty very well, and most of Renegades are now heading up towards this top lane.
Yeah, Alfari maybe pushing to try and get onto Rifty though, and I don't think Furion wants to join in this fight right now. Rifty has been hung out to dry. Mounting Dread is going to stack up, and Maxlaw will be able to pick up the kill. Kadril was on his way as well, and Furion just completely abandons his top laner.
Yeah, it's really nice reading of the body language of Rifty in lane right there. They knew that he was trying to bait for something. So both Kadril and Maxlaw head up towards that top line to provide for support. Kadril didn't actually need to. He's going to go in onto Larson here.
Larson could be in trouble. Actually, Kadril still has his ultimate available, but Furion is going to be there in the mid lane. So that's going to force Kadril away and deny that aggression that was going to be coming out. Across the board, a lot of aggression, but not too many kills. 2,000 gold lead now in favor of the Banditos, certainly taking control of the matchup. But Manalite by no means out of this running.
No, absolutely not. Furion is not storming away in terms of farm right now. I think he's been trying to have an impact across the map, but Maxwell's been reading it very well, always been there for us, some form of counter gank, also picking up his own sort of slew of kills. There's a nice CS advantage. Haddo's now the target in this bot lane.
Yeah, he certainly is, and they're more than happy to go for it. Culling actually going to be used by Yuki as well, just to try and secure that kill. They're not quite going to be able to, but this forces the bottom lane away, and look how low that tower is already. They're going to be able to finish off this objective shortly. Yuki should be able to shove this under tower and take that one away.
Early Spirit Visage as well for Captain Alfari. Forgoes going that Barmy Cinder straight for the Spirit Visage, which makes kind of a lot of sense into the Maokai, Nidalee, and the Corki. You'd think that's one of the more viable first option choices we've got. Larson now the target.
Yeah, he certainly is. Going to be able to Valkyrie under his tower, though. Does take a huge amount of damage from Maxlaw, who is getting pretty scary. Already on 2 kills. And Larson feeling the brunt of that damage right now. Smiley actually needs to be a little bit careful in that bottom lane, but it looks like the mid lane, tier 1, is being aggressed upon. Furion going to be there to defend, though.
I mean, Alfari is having a great time in this top lane. He's going to go in on to Rifty.
For this one, Rifty could be in trouble here. Alfari just needs to get one more hammer shock, and he might get there. Kill Rifty. Does manage to sidestep the second proc, though, and will walk away with his life. Oh, I say that. Actually, Maxlaw coming on into the top lane to secure this kill. Rifty can't get away. One more auto attack will do it. Red buff finishes it off in the end, or it might have been Wolf's Frenzy, but Furion is here. Maxlaw has to use the Lamb's Respite, but it's only going to keep him alive for so long. Furion.
What?
Pulls him to safety. Maxlaw somehow surviving. Haddo jumps forward with the Glacial Fissure. Larson finally finishes it off, and now it's Heaver that's in trouble, flashing over into the pit of the Rift Herald.
I think Furion's glad he didn't go over that Rift Herald pit right there, because he would have walked straight into enemy territory. But that was a really nice roam by Heaver. Maxwell ended up paying for his life regardless, giving the kill over to Larson. So small saving grace for Manalite at this point in time. But they need to start heading towards those power spikes. They need to get this Trinity Force on the Corki. They don't need to start using it. They need to start making sure they start to fight, because the later this goes, yes, the Ezreal is good in the late game, and so is the Nidalee, but you do feel like Alfari is going to be pretty difficult to deal with. Ezreal's never really going to be able to kill Alfari, remember. He's not this kind of tank shredder. That's what Ezreal's not as good for. He might be able to kite Alfari, but even with Steadfast Presence, she will be able to catch up with you. So you need to be careful about trying to take this to the late game when you think Ezreal's going to carry, because Alfari should be able to deal with the Ezreal, just force him away for the team fights and let the rest of the team do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see Heaver and Maxwell coming in to the mid lane, but they are stepped on a ward, and there's the pink. They're going to know that the egg is on their face, and they're going to have to walk away from that one. But so far,
no one likes egg on their face, mate.
Nobody likes egg on their face. But Larson doing a very good job in this mid lane. But honestly, right now, the scary thing for Manalite is Maxlaw in this jungle. 3 kills already on that Kindred.
Yep.
He is just getting pretty terrifying. Already has a Hex Drinker as well. Finished his Devourer. Just needs to get that sated. And they're pushing on in this top lane, looking for the tier 1 tower. They aren't going to be able to finish this one off. Haddo walks forward with the Unbreakable. And that is going to be the tower still surviving on just a couple of hits of life. Cadril in the meantime pushing this mid lane, but that should be cleared up by Larssen pretty easily.
Interestingly enough, no one has decided to push for this Rift Herald very early here. Just because I think Renegades know that if they don't have complete vision control of that area, they have thrown sort of their leads in the early game quite significantly at that portion of the map. So, and they don't really need it right now because, you know, they're not forcing any sort of uneven lanes. They're not sort of rotating into a 2 versus 1 matchup. They're not going to get free pushes onto towers. They're doing it quite effectively without the Rift Herald, so there's no need to force that one until they find an opportunity. But now with the bot lane top, if they can look to exert pressure there, if they can try and force someone back, then Rift Herald will likely be the target, then they can rotate up to top lane and take that top lane tower.
Certainly can. Maxlor is getting in onto
Another hook onto
Furion
Smiley
right now, and you're absolutely right. Smiley is going to be going down. Hado now on his own, tries to jump away, but a nice steadfast presence will deny it, and Alphari grabs himself a kill. That is going to be another 2 going the way of the Banditos. They're now 6 for 1. Mid lane tower incredibly low, and the rest of the squad starting to push up in this top lane.
I think this has been so effective that they don't need to go for the Rift Herald at this point in time because they can push without it. That's going to be the culling to just delete that wave, and now they're going to push onto this second tier turret with absolutely no need to risk going for the Rift Herald. I imagine they may back and get it now while the rest of Manlight have to deal with this wave pushing towards them, but this is looking like another hook. He's not going to go for it though. I think they know that that's a slightly risky endeavor.
Yeah, actually,
but,
they might be in trouble because Larssen's jumping forwards with the special package. Heaver is going to be the first one to go down. They definitely can't get Herald now. Harold the Herald. But Furion looking to punish even more.
Rifty has to be careful.
To back away. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Alphari might just look for the fight on this one, but I don't think it's something that he can just straight up chase onto.
I mean, this is a 6k gold advantage at 15 minutes. We're just not used to seeing this level of dominance between these two teams. Renegades really starting to turn up the heat here. Alphari's had a brilliant time in that top lane. You put Rifty onto a tank, and again, the first pick Poppy prioritization is working out for the Renegades. I think, you know, go back to the drawing board, maybe consider Poppy as a ban here. It's been such an important piece of the Renegades draft. It might be worth thinking about taking that away. If they do lose this game, maybe if they win it, then they won't need to. But you know, if you lose this game, then maybe think about taking that Poppy away. I know it doesn't seem like it's been super impactful, but Rifty right now, he can't split push at all versus Alphari.
No. He definitely can't. He can't even survive versus Alphari at this rate, who's really starting to bully in this bottom lane. Furion has to flash just to get to his tower right there because Alphari was very, very close to stunning him up against the wall there, and that would have been very bad news for the Cougar. But they are going to be able to at least contest their own blue buff. But that's kind of the state of this game right now. They have to contest their own buffs right now. And Furion has to smite that one away. So Larssen isn't going to be able to get that buff. Maxlor trying to get damage down onto this Corki, but here comes Rifty. He's gone for the flank. Heaver on this front line will get sniped by Smiley with the True Shot Barrage. Alphari now flashing away as Rifty tanks up this culling. But it looks like Manlight just going to take the 1 kill and run with it.
Yeah, what can they get from this? It looks like Dragon is going to be the call here. That's a decent first objective to take on the map. Again, over-aggression from Renegades. They didn't have the teleport on Cadril either, and he was splitting in that top lane, and I think Manlight will have timed that and knew that it was a safe engage to make.
I think Dragon is a decent call as well, especially when you're running Ezreal. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Realistically, you're looking towards the late game anyway. I think maybe Manlight could have tried to look to put some pressure onto the Dragon earlier on in the game, because realistically, if your first Dragon is at 17 minutes, it's going to be very, very late that you can even look towards 5 Dragons.
Yeah, I think obviously with Ezreal, with Corki as well, you know, these kind of champions will
you get the
love
burn
that,
on all of your poke. Yeah.
These kind of champions also love that first Dragon buff because it will help accentuate their mid game. Interestingly enough, it's also, we've talked about this with Kindreds, if you can deny Dragons from Kindreds, it does. Like with any Devourer jungler, just slow their ability to stack that jungle item up. So, you know, that's a bit of a small win here for Manlight. They still need a lot of work to be done. They're 4k, they managed to bring that gold lead down just a little bit. And it does look like they're going to employ that 1-3-1 that we are so used to seeing the Renegades run with. 1-3-1 every single time. Cadril and Alphari in the side lanes. And then they can always teleport in and infect the team fight in another way.
Yeah, they absolutely can. And actually, Furion doing a very, very good job in the jungle now, trying to catch up. He has got a little bit of a CS lead onto Maxlor. And in fact, specifically in the jungle, Maxlor still 700 gold ahead, but it certainly feels like that gap has closed down a little bit to what it was earlier on in the game. Furion doing a good job to at least try and stay in this one. And other than that, it's kind of just the mid lane that really Manlight have any kind of pressure in.
Absolutely. Yuki now just going to be pushing in this mid lane. Again, this 1-3-1 just starting to apply pressure to the side lanes. No one up there to deal with K-Draw. This bottom lane tier 2 is now the target for Alphari. And there's no need to go for the engage for Renegades right now. They are just winning through split push pressure, as they usually do. This is their tactic, time and time again. Every single game. It has been the 1-3-1 here, Munch.
Yeah, it really has. And Rifty going to be caught up by Alphari, and the teleport going to be channeled by K-Draw. They're looking to make something happen here, but Rifty will survive. Immediately, a 5-man comes down to this bottom lane tier 2 tower, but True Shot Barrage is going to delete the minion wave. There's not really much of an answer. Rifty jumps on in, but he is not tanky enough. Alphari is happy to hold onto that tower aggro for as long as the fight needs to go.
Notice the way that Renegades use their teleport. They don't necessarily use it to make a catch that they think will work out. They literally bait someone to the top lane, then immediately teleport to the bottom lane to get another objective. It's a teleport for an objective. K-Draw going to back off here with that glacial path, you know, the run forwards and use the glacial path to increase the distance as they think they've caught you out. But it's just the way that the Renegades use these teleports, because Larson went to the top lane, didn't have the package. He was trying to deal with the split push from K-Draw, or at least the wave that had been pushed in by him. Then K-Draw says, okay, well, now we've got positional advantage to try and push onto this tier 2. They don't actually get the objective from it, though, but they do pick up a kill, I suppose. I think they would have wanted to come away from more with just that teleport, however.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're absolutely right. The Banditos aren't going to be able to pick up an objective off the back of that teleport, and now it looks like Manalite are looking towards an objective. There's no wave clear in this bottom lane right now, and the tower is already low. Furion gets caught by a death sentence, but that's not one Heaver can really follow through on, and the tower will go down. So Manalite managing to close that gold gap a little bit more. Still 4,000 in favor of the Banditos, though. Banditos definitely still well in the lead on this one. And
notice the way that you've rotated Alphari now to that top lane because his teleport is available. You will now probably see Renegades again push towards this tier 2 in the bot lane. And then they'll use Alphari's teleport in a similar manner, either to make or try and make a catch or just try and secure that tier 2 tower. It's just the way they seem to be rotating their people around the map.
The scary thing for them now, though, is if they re-employ that same strategy, Baron is now actually an issue for them. They can't just commit to the bottom side of the map with everybody without risking, or at least risking losing that objective, which could be absolutely massive. Alphari stepping forward into the jungle of Manalite, but no one really able to punish him. He is not really the target that you want to be starting an engage onto.
No. The interesting thing about what you picked up about the Baron is if they can force people to defend this turret, then they won't be in such an awful position. If they're pushing it for free and they realize that no one's defending it, then they will have an idea that Baron is on the cards. I think it's why they're only committing Yuki to the split push right now instead of sending everyone down there. The rest of them are just sort of milling in between that blue side jungle and the bot lane, just finding out the right time to commit. True Shot Barrage actually steals the blue.
That's the second kind of snipe we've seen with the True Shot Barrage. We saw the kill onto Heaver earlier as well, coming out with that.
For sure.
So Smiley pretty accurate on that Ezreal, and we are going to be seeing Rifty heading up to that top lane again to try and deny the split push of Alphari. Rifty getting decently tanky now, so he's not going to have as hard of a time up in that top lane.
For sure. And now this mid-game spike from Corki is coming into effect as well. Also double buffs on the Ezreal. I think this is going to be just a relaxed period for the Renegades. They aren't going to try and push too much while these sort of huge power points are being hit. Larson's going to show his face in that bot lane, but there's no one here to try and capitalize on that. The interesting thing is they've really only got K-Draw for the engage or making a pick with that Threshold. There isn't anyone else that is like a full-scale engage tool. Yes, you can kind of do it with Alphari, but again requires kind of a flank position, much like K-Draw will. Whereas Rifty should be able to make the engages happen when he wants them for Manalite. It just depends if they want them to happen. And who do you focus? I guess you lock down Maxlaw, try and force that Kindred ultimate ASAP.
Yeah, I suppose it's got to be really. And as well, if you can lock down Maxlaw while you burst him, he's going to be an incredibly squishy champion. So if you can get him early and deny his use of the ultimate, that's where you're going to find your way in these fights. But I mean, honestly, with Banditos kind of slowing down the pace that they're trying to force this game right now, I would say that actually kind of plays into the hands of Manalite somewhat in the way they have Corki, they have Ezreal, they have Maokai. The longer this game goes on, the more powerful those champions are going to become. But second dragon of the game, going to be going the way of the Banditos. So one apiece now. That'll
be good for the Banditos. They also would have wanted that first dragon buff. Yeah, I I see the point there. It looks like the siege is going to start coming through from Manlight. They do have a very good siege composition. There isn't really much wave clear if Cadril is split pushing.
Alfari's coming in from the flank though, but I don't think the rest of his team is ready to go for the engage just yet. Hado trying to get away with the stand behind me, but he's going to get locked up, gets a nice double knock up, and there's the true shot barrage.
Nice Cadril
gets 3 men in his ultimate, but is it enough? He just gets absolutely burst down. Lamb's respite is going to keep everyone alive for a second. Hado gets healed and is going to be able to walk away. It's Alfari going down, traded for the support of Manalite, and now they find a second one. They're looking for more as well. Yuki having to flash away. Furion with a max range spear can't quite find his target though, but Manalite win the fight 2-1.
Yeah, again, they expended a lot of resources in trying to deal with that Maokai. They spent so much, and obviously Cadril got a brilliant engage, but no one to follow him up because they were all dealing with Rifty at that point. Rifty took a long time to go down and bought a lot of time for his team also. And that just allowed Ezreal and Corki to remain untouched and just Furion to try and pick people off with the spears. So really great fight by Manalite, and Renegades, they are being taken to a tough game by a bunch of randoms apparently.
Yeah, absolutely. This gold lead is not looking as random anymore. They're only 3,500 now, but Manalite going to be able to take another tower for themselves, so that's going to close that even
Alfari
more.
again with a flank.
3,000. Alfari, yep, going in onto this one, and there's no mana on any of these members. Maxlord going to be here as well, and Larson is just going to be that sacrificial lamb for his team. Ironically, Lamb taking the kill onto him, but Cadril goes very deep for this one. He's incredibly low. True shot barrage is not going to be enough to snipe him out, and this is bad news for Manalite. Smiley going to go down as well. Hado, the next target. Mountain Dread is going to be more than enough for Maxor to grab his 6th kill of the game, and there's the hook from Heaver, not letting anyone get away. Furion, he's not going to get followed up on. Will be able to walk away with his life, but this should be Baron for the Banditos.
Yeah, this should be Furion unless he can make an absolute wonder steal, but he knows.
He has to base.
Yeah, he has to base. He knows, and he was just zoning him out as well. So this should be Baron going down for the Banditos. I mean, that was a really, really good play by Alfari. The good ward, I mean, it's all respect to the really awesome ward coverage as well that is lying around that red side jungle. I got to note that there's a very offensive ward lineup when you've lost all of your tier 1s, especially given the state of the game for Manalite. They've got huge amounts of vision in the enemy jungle, but realistically they needed a lot more vision in their own jungle just because they have been playing on their side of the map for the most part of the game. It's you can see there's pinks all over the place for Renegades, covering the entire red side. I mean, as soon as Ezreal goes to this red buff, they will have an idea that he's there. They're now going to get some pinks in their own jungle, but there's still lots to do in terms of clearing that vision out.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, really nice punish on the overcommitment from Manalite there. So the Banditos, again, extend their gold lead.
I think they wanted to get something out of that small fight that they won, so they went for that tier 1 turret, but they really were not expecting, and again, it's that double teleport coming into play. They really weren't expecting Alfari to have another flank. I mean, I'm not sure if they were even aware if Alfari just walked from the top lane or he teleported for that previous engage, but he managed to catch them unawares, and obviously the low mana on Larson, and Smiley with some great hooks from Heaver, getting caught out there, and now they're going to resort back to this split push now that Cadril's TP is almost off cooldown, and this is the benefit of that double TP composition. And I think it's something that's so interesting in League of Legends right now because of the so many ways you can use your minion wave to your advantage with things like the Rift Herald and with Baron. You know, the split pushing has just become so much more of a viable strategy, and the 1-3-1 in it, and especially with Baron able to pressure all 3 lanes is just such a ridiculous tactic to use right now.
Absolutely, and I really love how the Lissandra pick in League of Legends right now kind of forces your opponents not to be able to go with the double teleport. You kind of have to have that cleanse in the mid lane when you're going up against Lissandra, and we've seen this every single Lissandra pick. It's been the Lissandra team has double teleport, and then whoever is against them has to go cleanse and loses out because of it.
Yeah, I think Corki going and teleport would never happen anyway, but just because of the package. But again, the timings aren't quite there for Manalite. They're not picking up that package and giving Corki, and obviously there's a very limited time period when you pick it up that you can use it, so you can never realistically predict when you need to react to a teleport with the Corki package, so it's very difficult to read a double teleport play. In fact, if you're going up against Lissandra in the middle, and it's why it's always been a final pick in the champion select, by the way, because it's always been kind of like a counter pick to the early Corki rotation and things like that. You're right, you have to go for that teleport because of the risk of ganks.
Well, here we go, the siege in the mid lane. This tower incredibly low, but they're out of minions to push with the Banditos trying to find more objectives to use this Baron on. So far, the Baron buff ticking away. I'm not sure how long quite is left. It's actually about to run out on this one. They've managed to grab 1 tier 2 in the bottom lane. Alfari still pushing up in this top lane, but Rifty will be able to deny his push onto the tower. And by the looks of things, it's just going to be the one tower that the Banditos managed to achieve.
Good defense by Manalite, and actually that's the package there, just being Bert to make his way back towards clearing that bot lane out. But yeah, I think Blade the Ruined King is a very, very sensible third item choice for Smiley here. He's going to have to be doing some damage to Alfari, and he's going to need an extra piece of tool to kite away from this Poppy. So the Blade the Ruined King is a sensible third item choice. Maxwell going to get another mark on his retreat from the Manalite side of the map here. It's not all doom and gloom for Manalite. They may almost be 10k behind. They're about 8k behind right now, but it's not all doom and gloom. They defended that Baron very well with losing only one turret. And they are starting to ramp up now. There's the Frozen Gauntlet on the Maokai. That should help for peeling as well, because realistically, the best thing they do now is peel, isn't it? You know, if you get to a team fight, you peel. Because you have to peel for that Ezreal, who's going to just be trying to do as much damage in the backline as physically possible, and for the Corki, who has got almost a 3-item spike in his back pocket also. So
yeah, and I mean, the entire composition from Manalite when it comes to those team fights is all about kiting around. You've got two very long-range, kind of poke-oriented carries that, I mean, obviously both of them can kind of all in as well. They can throw out burst damage when they need to, but generally speaking, the playstyle is based around trying to get that poke damage out. And we'll see how well they're going to be able to kite away in these team fights. I really feel like so much of the next few minutes is going to be about whether or not Manalite are going to be able to lock Max Law down. If they can shut him down, he is 6-1-2 right now.
I feel like there's not enough been said about Maxwell this game, because he's kind of been silently doing his job but picking up the kills on the side lanes. I've been interested to see what his stacks are on his passive right now. He's currently sitting at...
That's the wrong one. 10.
So he's at 10 stacks right now.
No, 5 stacks, sorry.
Oh, 5 stacks, okay. Yeah, he's sitting at 10 Hunter's Vigor, okay. He's at 5 stacks, so that's pretty decent. It's not amazing at this point in the game, but he's definitely starting to ramp up towards getting the maximum amount of stacks for his champion. And honestly, he's been having a really good performance so far on this Kindred. He's been grinding the gold. He's kept up almost in farm to this Nidalee, which is impressive within itself.
I think as well this kind of answers one of the things that a lot of people were bringing up. I was basically everyone I talked to about this swap between Impaler and Max Law kind of said, well, we're at finals and Max Law kind of has a reputation for somewhat choking at LAN. This is definitely proving that maybe he's found the solution to any issues he had previously.
They're going to push onto this mid lane turret now. Haddo gets caught.
Haddo's in trouble. True Shot Barrage is going to go through. The tower did go down, but Haddo actually survives this one. Max Law very close to going down. Lamb's respite. K-Draw just single-handedly wins the fight right there. Triple kill comes through for Yuki. And the Banditos, after taking the tower, baiting with the Lamb's respite, are going to be able to take this mid lane inhibitor tower. Alfari more than happy to tank this one out.
It should be game, and I mean, they've got enough time to finish the game here, Munchballs.
For sure they do. They're going to get, at very least, this mid lane inhibitor, but they've got another minion wave to work with. Still 20 seconds until the support spawns for Manalite. It's just Rifty versus the world right now. If he can clear the minions somehow, maybe he can defend this, but it's a tall order for just a tree. Rifty gets caught up, and he will be taken out. There's no one left to defend. He does manage to get the kill onto Heaver, but Heaver's not really relevant when you're pushing onto towers. That's the 2 Nexus towers going down, and the Banditos are going to be able to finish the first game of our final. They just need to get a couple more hits onto this Nexus. The Banditos are now 1-0 against Manalite.
I think there is one big thing that you need